Welcome back to another episode of Duel Alliance with myself, Alicia Solomon, and Megan Hines, where every week we discuss the challenge. We are back to discuss episode 8, aka known as Corey Goes Off on All You Hoes. This episode actually had a lot more intensity, and I appreciate it because the last couple of weeks was a little bit of a snooze fest for me. But this week we got a lot of Corey, and also Derek just trying to cause mischief, being a little Keeper elf, running around on one leg. Uh, it was definitely a good episode. I thoroughly enjoyed the theme of the episode. I love when they do movie integration. So we have a lot to talk about.
Yes. This was it really was a good episode. Like the Corey really amped it up this week with the drama factor because he has been stale. And when he takes things personally, it doesn't bode well normally, but he used that as motivation this week. And coming into this episode, the targets were obviously in Era 1, Derek and Rachel, since they're the last two standing. Cara Maria and Derek C for Era 2. Corey and Avi for Era 3, and Jenny and Theo for Era 4. And at the beginning of the episode, we see like Derek C saying he's sitting pretty for the most part and being a target on Era 2, since they've been constantly in top 2, like they've been in the mix to go into the arena, but they really haven't been picked to go in as much. And Jenny says she knows she's at the bottom of the total poll in her era, with the one that's being constantly like put in to be a target. And Michelle told her just to play the game for herself a bit in this virtual relationships. And in this conversation, we see a confessional from a fellow person in Era 4 calling Jenny a Ricky. And I have a tweet for later on, but that lady won a final before Casey did. She didn't see them. She had time on the challenge before Casey. And that lady had to say, oh, I'm on the team of a whole bunch of Rickies. You just got here too.
Yeah, I don't know where Casey's comment and also entitlement has been. Like the Vacation Alliance has gone to her head so bad, especially her and Josh this episode, which they're kind of turning the tide this week with a couple of those members seeing the true intentions of Josh and Casey. But Casey's comment, I mean, she's just I don't want to say what I want to say, but she's just been entitled since she's been with a certain someone, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. Jenny has won prior. She didn't need any help, by the way, Jenny, when she won. And so I just think that Casey she's along for the ride, but she needs to be careful. Like she needs to watch herself.
Yeah. And Corey said he was going to try and lean on Avery's connection with Derek C to keep him safe because he don't got nobody. He knows he's not in the vacation line. He's out work with them. He's trying to nurture those relationships with Era 2 to make sure he's good and safe. And so he said like the agreement that Era 3 has with Era 4 is strictly the Vacation Alliance agreement. No one else really. So we've been knew this. We've been saying this the last couple of weeks that man is not really in cahoots with people on his team because they're not for him. They're not working with him. They're just tolerating him and have him there for a number. And then Derek did seal a deal with Theo for this week to look out for another because it's just Derek on Era 1 and he needs an ally. And what better person to do so than another target in Theo to keep him safe? But obviously, this episode, it really wasn't as much needed, but it did help them build a rapport of sorts.
I mean, we did see it come into play in the challenge, so we could talk about it. Like it
Yeah.
did help Derek.
It did. And speaking of this challenge, like you mentioned, was movie themed. It was based off of one of TJ's favorite movies in Gladiator, and with it coming out the sequel in November, starring Denzel Washington and Pedro Pascal. This daily challenge was Gladiator themed, and it was called Battle for Honor, where they'll have to attempt to push their opponents into the water with a shield while avoiding being pushed off themselves in men and women heats And if they're pushed or held on for a period of time, the players will be out or DQ'd. The team with the most players still standing will win, and the team with the fewest players standing will go straight into the arena. And Era 4 said that they adopted Era 1 in their partnership for this episode, for this daily, while Era 2 and Era 3 were locked in, but not really locked in together. They were just there. And Corey immediately got to work and targeted Theo in their men's seat. And it was just really funny, like seeing Theo like go at him while hearing Michelle in the background yelling, "Help Theo! Help Theo!"
I mean, I love this challenge. I thought that it really was a good idea, thought, all of that. However, just with era one being one person, I'm literally like, how can we even continue on this sham of seeing era one do this? And to their credit, they almost won. If Derek really was not injured, I feel like he could have probably tried to stay on as long as he could. He would have fought a little bit harder. But like you mentioned, Theo, he was struggling, and at one point, Theo was getting jumped, and essentially just decided to stay down. Like once you're getting beat up, just try to stay down, and that actually DQ'd him. So it was definitely interesting to see how Theo played it. But before we got to that, basically they were roughing each other up. Bananas gets out first, and we get a continued succession of people going out. The only highlight really of this challenge was Corey and Theo. So Devin is basically like, hey, let's make a deal right now. Like if you don't try to throw him down, he's gonna save you, or vice versa. Whoever wins, basically they're trying to save each other in era 3 and era 4. And Theo was like, I can't do that. I can't go back on my word. And shout out to Theo for standing on his word and actually playing the game this week. I really enjoyed Theo and Jenny how they played this week, because at this point their numbers aren't that great, and so they have to do what they can to try to at least stay in the game and play and make some moves, because or else they're gonna get run over by the alliances that we all know who do what they do in this house. So Theo was like, "Yeah, nah, bro. I already made a deal. I can't really save you." And Corey was like, "Yeah, all right, cool, bet. And I'm just gonna run you over." And Corey went through him like a brick house. And to Corey's credit, I mean, Corey has a lot of fight. I give Corey a lot of slack because something ain't all the way up there in that brain of his. But however, he also puts a lot of it on himself. And so it's definitely hard to root for Corey because you did this to yourself, bruh. But I will say he's not going out with a fight. He's going to stand on his own 10 toes, whether it's him with an army of him and himself and him curls. Like, if it's just him, he gonna try to win. So Corey was like, "Yeah, bro, I'm gonna run you over," and that's essentially what he did. They all then this is where Theo gets jumped. Theo got to get up. He can't. He's just literally trying to stay on the ground because he's like, if he knows he gets up, it's over. And so we get Theo DQ'd out, and ultimately, no one really else kind of falls out of the water. And the end of this also now brings Derek and Corey going at it, which Corey was visibly upset, obviously, because there's already deals that are been made and in place, and he was not really like aware of it. So now he's, going off on everybody. And somehow Derek gets involved in it, and Derek's like, "Come at me," and throws a life jacket at him to his back, which is like, why would you do it behind his back? And what Derek said later, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because you know what you did. Like, you threw that shit behind his back before he could even see it or turn around, and you already knew what the situation was because security was there. So why would you even do that to try to incite something? Like, no one's gonna fight. So I just didn't like that from Derek, but I just thought it was funny how Derek and Corey just decided to go at each other really off of their own frustrations. Derek, obviously, because of his leg and he can't really do shit, but Corey, because Corey is a one-man band at this point.
He's one band, one sound. That's all he got. But it is funny because like Corey was like, if I wanted to, I would have thrown you over the fucking edge. Like that's how intense it got. I'm like, why y'all testing like this? Like, and this is where we saw like the clip from last week where like Derek called him a bitch. So I was like, how did this get incited? But obviously, like I said, it was a frustration bubbling on both ends, and They just happened to be right there at the right time, not the wrong time, and we got that moment because we needed a good moment of actual. I feel like guys fighting, to be honest, because like the ladies have been killing it with the drama this season so far. We haven't seen much of the guys really go at it, um, and the keep it in the sand. And I kind of like that they gave us this. Um, but yeah, that fight it wasn't necessary, but it was the light because Corey's just on an island. But in the women's heat, it was a little bit better. Wasn't too much getting up except for like Cara needing help against Tori because Cara's like, oh, Tori's on the edge by herself. But she messed around and found out, and Tori put on her butt, and Cara had to call Laurel for help.
Yeah, another thing that I also enjoyed was Tori was trying to be on the edge and actually Kara and Laurel working together for a common goal, which was to get Tori out, which I mean, I'm already here for that. So it's just great to watch. But the women's heat was a little bit different. I was rooting like Naya had to be the first one to go out. I'm like, Naya, push her ass. Like I'm in the crib, like really like rooting for these people. Naya gets the first one to be out. A little precursor of what's to come, which Rachel and Avery. Rachel was on Avery's ass at one point, like on top of her head top. Okay. And I was just like, yo, Avery, your money maker, girl, you gotta either save yourself or I don't know, because it's really clipped. Like Avery, to her credit, she's gonna hustle and try and do her best. But it was just so funny because Rachel was not playing with y'all. And to Rachel's credit, she was the sole survivor from her team. And like I mentioned earlier, if they really uh if Derek was not injured, I felt like they could have been able to hold on. And it honestly is not fair to watch because you already know these people have two people. So if one of them gets out, they're automatically going in. It's not even a fair fight chance shot. Like it should have been a time situation where I don't know, it should have been something different to kind of measure how they were going to do that, because I just don't think um it's really right for us to just see era one get plummeted like this. Like even though everyone got out fair and square, it's like insane to see. So Rachel, to her credit though, she stayed. And for the rest of them, like it really was just a stalemate between all of them. And shout out to Aviv too. Aviv, 5 feet in all, was taking them hits, taking them licks, taking them shots. But she was giving them back too. And she stayed and hold on too. So it was a good challenge overall.
Yeah, I be forgetting that Dee was still there. I forgot Naya was still there until like she was the first one out. Not gonna hold you. Cause I was like, wait, Naya's still here. And I was like, I looked in the back when the guy piece, she was standing back there. And then when she got out first, I was like, oh, there's Naya. I was like, that's there. But all in all, Era 4 won for having the most people still standing, and that meant that Theo and Jane were now at the head of the table, while Maria and Derek C and Corey and Avery have to plead their cases to go in to not go into the arena against Derek and Rachel, who were unfortunately by proxy are losers for this episode. And Derek C wanted to try and repay Avery for her sacrifice early in the season when she and Tony had to stalemate, but it was a lose kind of situation because you have to campaign against yourself, like your best friend in the house, basically. And he's like, I don't want to do that because I want to just kind of play neutral. And Kara's hoping that because of her relationship with Theo and how they were on World Awards too, that would help her in their friendship as well. But it kind of did help them in a sense. But because of the power on from Corey on Theo, and by proxy of like what happened in the chamber, Corey and Avery were on the outs.
I mean, I kind of agree with Avery. Like Derek should have been put himself up at this point if he was going to repay Avery, because there was really no other opportunity to do that. I mean, there may be down the line, but I do think that was something that should have been thought of. And for Derek to kind of be like, yeah, I don't really want to do it, it's like, why not? Like Avery literally put herself up there against Tony and was just like, I'm not budging on this, and put herself up for elimination. Like, you have an opportunity. Derek is hobbling on one leg. Like, even though he did well in the elimination and he's still a competitor, like, Derek's on one leg. If you are given an opportunity to do anything at any point in this game against somebody who's a weaker competitor, I would put myself up against it. Like, it is what it is. Like, if I'm repaying you, then that's how you repay the quote unquote debt or favor. But Derek didn't want to do it. Whatever. We move on to basically Corey and Avi fighting for their lives, and we get to the chamber where, I mean, I don't really know what to expect from like Corey. Like, Corey was trying to rehearse his lines prior. Him and Avery were talking about it prior to see like what should he say, how should he say it. Like, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna say that. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Yeah, it's just like, Corey, you do not need to be prepped. Like, for all of Corey's long soliloquies about how long he's played the challenge and how long he's done this and he's been there for 11 years, and you still need to get prepped to know what to say when you are fighting for your life. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, Corey, it just don't be added up sometimes. Like, I'm with you when I'm with you, but when you start to lose me at a certain point, and I'm just like, bro, it's no reason for you to have to get prepped with Avery to rehearse your lines. Like, come on now.
Why are you rehearsing lines in the first place, to be honest? Like, just, you know the lay of the land. Just say what you want to do, and that's it. We didn't need you to rehearse your lines. Because, like, when he said, like, oh, I've been in the game for 11 seasons, like, 11 years, seasons, whatever. I'm a strong player. I'm like, you being a strong player, sure. That doesn't sometimes doesn't work out for you being a strong player. Then you say that, people want to look at you as a threat. Like, the way he words things too is like, bro, I need you to take a moment to word your cases better. Because his speech, it sounded good on paper, but when you really think about it, it wasn't gonna bode well. Because if you think I'm a strong player to some of the bigger players on Era 4, well, they still want you in the house if you say, oh, I'm a strong player. When you say that, that's an easy get to get you out of the house. But it didn't help either when Derek was like, oh, Rachel's best bet is to go against Avery and stay in the game. Corey took exception immediately. He was like, oh, so you saying you want to go against me? Why are you getting so hyped up about this? I get it. We saw you and Derek have a tip at the end of the challenge. But don't take everything personally. Like, he takes things personally when it's like not needed. Like, earlier in the game when he was talking to Josh, he was like, I'm taking it personally, take a shot. Not every game move is personal. Sometimes it's just game. What Derek was saying is just game. It's not personal. You got up on your high horse and was like, oh, you want to go against me? Cool. I'm not going to back down. Like, okay. And
Yeah, I mean, that's just Corey. And it was just, it was odd because literally, he's, first of all, Derek was not wrong. Like, Rachel obviously would want to go against Avery because what threat is, like, I don't say what threat is Avery, but like, let's be for real. Like, Rachel would literally mollywop Avery. Like, I'm just sorry. That's just how I see it. And so, yes, if that's the case that Rachel has to go against Avery by proxy, Corey, that means you have to go against Derek. Just take it on the chin and do what you want to do. You also mentioned he's taking things personal, and he told Jenny to her face, like, if you throw me in again, I'm gonna take it personal because it's the second time that you're throwing me in, and I have to do what I have to do. And again, like you said, Corey just always takes it personal. Like, Corey cries about not having the friendships and relationships, and, tries to make things work when it's too late. Like, you should have been trying to mend and have these friendships and try to have these connections before you are get caught up in the crossfire of being in elimination or nomination or whatever it is. Like, I think Corey just waits too long to try to make a game move, and then once his quote unquote friends are stuck between a rock and a hard place, he just depends on everyone to do something. And it's like, yes, they can, but you also have to put yourself in a situation where you're not shouting at everyone and making yourself enemy number one. So Jenny was basically like, okay, like, I guess I'm gonna have to take another shot at Corey and make it personal, or whatever the case may be, because it's not really personal, but Corey just takes it that way. And so now him and Jenny got something going on. I don't know. Like Corey is just he's funny, he's good TV, but like I mentioned, like something ain't clicking with Corey all the way there.
Yeah, because like he also cuts himself off at the knees when it comes to relationships. Period. Like literally at the beginning of the season, what's gonna have his back? You know, they would be on an island by themselves. Amanda, if you didn't try and also go at Leroy and have a little tiff, that would have been an ally. Like literally, there are people on his team that he could have actually harbored, like actually had a good rapport with even within the dynamic of their own team. But no, he voted with the group to get out the one person in the house that would actually have his back that is not Nehemiah, who is on Eric too. Because now, like throughout the season, you see him trying to garner a relationship with and it's like, bro, I get it. At this point, you're trying to do to cultivate that in the season, but you had people that had your back in the start, but you cut yourself out the knees early, so now you're still at the bottom of whatever's going on in your own team. It don't make sense, and that's part of the issue. Like, he's smart, but he uses smart to his advantage at times. I be on his side, but it be at the wrong time. So that man is just piped up for no reason. But basically, Theo and Jenny they decided to vote for Corey and Avery. They maxed their decision as a group vote. They went to Era 4 and like, so we have an idea, and they were asking for input. Michelle's like, okay, but she's like, no, y'all decided. Josh was like, I'll go with what y'all want to go with. Cool. And it was a 5-2 vote to put in Corey and Avery. Okay. Michelle told Devin that that's how the conversation went. They had a mindset, what they wanted to do. Everybody else just wouldn't fit. People did not. And she noted that Casey and Josh were just going with the wind blows. Josh was like, okay, cool. I have my relationship with Corey, but that's what y'all want to do. That's what y'all want to do.
Yeah, this is where we get Casey and Josh exposed, and Devin and Tori starts honestly questioning their friendship. Not their friendship, but their decision in making and how they play the game. Um, like we mentioned earlier, we saw how Casey just felt so entitled, was like, you need to make relationships and blah blah blah. And essentially Casey's just riding on the coattails of people and not saying anything. And Josh is doing the same thing. And of course, Josh gets out of his own mind and decides to go up to Corey and ask, "Are you okay?" Corey's like, "Nigga, no, I'm not okay. Like, what do you mean am I okay? Like, get the fuck on." And I don't blame Corey because he understands the game that Josh is playing, how fake he is, and how he's trying to just mask everything with you. I'm still your friend, bro. Like, I got your back. And it's just like, no, you don't. And like I said, to Theo and Jenny's credit, the whole game plan of trying to have a fake meeting, a sham meeting, whatever Michelle called it, I actually thought it was great. Like, let's put it back on everyone else. Let's get the heat off of us. We all made a quote unquote group decision. And so, yes, Jenny and Theo can take a little bit of heat, but also now Josh and Casey have also heat on them. Even though they like to stay in the background and hide, like now they have eyes on them because their loyalty is being questioned by people who they really thought was closest to them. And honestly, because Corey was their friends and on their side, and you would think that they would have Corey's back in the situation, everyone now sees like, yeah, you really don't. So what game are you playing? Like, whose side are you really on? And that's really the part that I enjoyed the most out of this episode. Of course, we get, like I said, Josh and Corey going at it. And then at one point, Corey's letting him know, like, yo, bro, I don't want to hear this shit. You take me for idiot, and I don't want to hear anything you gotta say. Like, you take me for a fool. Like, Corey was really like going off on Josh, and I really appreciated it because Josh needed to hear it. Like, he just likes to yell and scream and like, let me talk. And it's like, no, we don't need to let you talk. We've already heard enough. Like, you've already made your bed. Like, lay in it. And when he tried to put Kylan into it, Kylan was like, "Oh no, boo boo, we're not doing that. Listen, I had Corey's back. What you should have did was also have Corey's back, but you did it, and now you're trying to put it back on somebody else. Let's look in the mirror and try to figure out what's going on with you. Why did you do that to Corey? Like, I actually, Kylan was eating his episode for me on that confessional because like he really put Josh in his place. Like, bro, it was all you. And like I said, Theo and Jenny came up with the plan. People already knew that it was sort of a kind of a plan. They figured it out. But at the end of the day, Josh and Casey, now you got heat on you two. Now everyone is looking at you sideways. And your quote unquote closest friends in your alliance, Devin and Tori, who are like the bigger names in your alliance that really can save you, are now questioning you. Which is all I ever wanted because why are you hoes here?
Yeah, and it's very funny because like Casey was like saying that she knew of the actual team decision, but she still went with what was being said, and she's like, "Oh, Jenny and Theo to take accountability." What are you talking about? They're good. They're chilling. They made you look like a fool. They don't look like fools. That's you. Because you're just there. You just went along with the plan. Like, that 5-2 vote, sure, the 2 votes that were not for Corey were Michelle and Olivia. Well, Michelle and, I don't know, I forget how it was actually broken down. But they said it was 5-2 vote. You was in the majority, no matter what. You didn't vote against him. You just went along with it. That's on you, not on Theo and Jenny. Because why are you saying, oh, they need to take accountability? You didn't say nothing against what the decision was. You just went along with it. Jam. You said, oh, it wasn't a team decision. You ain't say nothing, so it was a team decision. If you're admitting, you're still part of the vote. So I don't know what kind of game she's trying to play with like these relationships, but you don't use relationships to your advantage at all. So good luck and Godspeed to that lady, but shut up about accountability because that ain't on them, that's on you. I had to get that little spiel off that lady, and I did not block her on TikTok, by the way. She still pops up in my FYP sometimes. Anyways, they go to the arena, and obviously against Derek and Rachel, it's going to be Corey and Avery. And Corey took all of Derek's actions from this episode very personally, like we mentioned before. So he was ready for the smoke. And they are playing a game called Fate of the Gladiators, which is another Gladiators inspired game where they have to box it out in the ring, and where you have to strike 16 targets on your opponent's chest guard while being blindfolded. And the players will alternate roles as a striker and evader, and the player who hits the most targets during their time as striker will win. And if they're tied, they'll just go by the time in which they struck their opponent. And Rachel and Avery went first, and they were actually decent. Rachel was just knocking Avery every which way. You know,
Who was these? Avery was getting her ass whooped by somebody who was blind, like blindfolded, and really a deer in headlights. I don't know what Avery thought she was doing. Like, she didn't run, she didn't move, she didn't do anything. Like, Avery was literally standing there and getting licked. Like, when I say licked, like getting really pounded in. And I kind of was just like, girl, what's going on? Like, you had all this fight, all this, I'm doing this, and girl, why are you just standing there and getting your ass whooped? Move. Do a circle, flip around. I don't know what Avery was doing. And it was just jarring because I'm like, girl, fight back. Like, like Rachel was really throwing blows at Avery, and I'm like, bro, if I'm if I'm fighting someone and they're blindfolded and you meaning to tell me you gonna knock me upside my head like this, oh baby, no. Like, I'm running around in a circle, do something. Avery literally was just standing there and getting hit. And I was just like, girl, this is crazy to watch actually. But Rachel, like, all she needed was to hear those bells and whistles, and she was just knocking those targets off of Avery. And Once that happened, I'm like, all right, like it's looking very slim for Avery. But to Avery's credit, when it was her time to get blindfolded and to box with Rachel, she actually was hitting Rachel down. Like she was hitting targets. She was actually moving. Rachel started it off right. Rachel started to run around in a circle, which is what Avery should have did in the first place. But Avery ended up like cornering Rachel at one point and was getting her hits back in. Like she was fighting back. So Avery didn't go down without a fight, but it was really insane to just see how Avery was just standing there like a crash dummy, getting her like head like knocked over. Girl, I don't know what that was, but that was insane. I'm sorry. Like I literally have no words. That was so insane because like, girl, what are you doing? And when it was her turn, like yeah, she got her hits back, but I was just like, I don't know if this girl she got a case of CTE or what after getting hit like that because I'm I'm really like, what is going on?
Yeah, I don't know what happened in that first bout, but I was like, dang, why are you just sitting there? Like she every every episode I try and mention that Summer Walker, like when she's just standing there at the red carpet. That's literally how Avery was. Just not moving. It was easy for Rachel to sense where she was because she did not move at any point really as much. So it was just very easy for Rachel to get her licks in on Avery. And so, like you said, the Avery's when she was a striker, she was able to get to Rachel because Rachel was moving, but she kept moving with her. But it was nothing there for her in that first round. But good on her for at least getting 10 targets done, while Rachel got all of hers. But in the men's heat, this is real beef, quote unquote, real beef. And Corey's like, yeah, you wanted me, so I'm about to go to blows. And this actually a decent bout between them because they both got all their targets. They're just trying to evade Corey even on one leg, and it still works for him. Like he was still trying to get away. Corey still got his licks in, but it still works. And then in the second one, when Corey was a striker, he just tried to sorry. Corey got his leg put on Derek. It was just vice versa. Like they both were just keying off one another, and all the while Derek was still hobbling around. He was still able to get all of his targets off of Corey. So that was a good even matchup for both of them.
Yeah, surprisingly, it was an even match, even though Derek is injured. I mean, Derek still was trying. He was, like you said, evading Corey, and it was really just a battle of time and trying to see who got it the fastest. And when it was time for uh Derek to go against Corey, I was really impressed with Derek. Like Derek was really going at Corey, and he was on point with it. Like we said, if he wasn't injured, like I think it would have just been a different outcome. It may have been quicker or whatever the case may be, but because at some points you see Derek fall down on the floor, he's like screaming out, "Ah, my leg!" And so you can clearly tell like he is really off of just one leg. But to his credit, like he still got all the targets at the end of the day, even though Corey was faster. Like Derek still got all his targets, so credit to him for still coming into that elimination and almost winning. Like I would have been embarrassed for Corey if Corey would have lost this, to be honest. But I am glad that Corey was a little bit quicker because that would not have been a good look.
Yeah, Corey would not have lived this down if he had lost this nation. He did all that for what? Like it's the ego. I would decide like it's your ego and your pride, and your seven is not helping you in this game. And look what happened. You got beat by a man of one leg, but that didn't happen. So props to Derek for giving Corey a fight, but like we said, Corey is faster with getting on the target. So Corey and Rachel are our winners for this nation, and they also received tickets to the world premiere of Gladiator 2, starring Denzel Washington and Pedro Pascal.
Girl, they are not paying us. I'm not about to promote anything. Like, I love Denzel down, but I'm not promoting shit. we can move on. Corey and Rachel are the targets. Rachel is now on a solo mission. Rachel thought that she was going to TJ was going to announce at least like they were switching up the game, which we do see that happen at some point of this game. Them switching up, but I guess it's still not yet. So we're going to wait to see how that works out. But like I don't even know how this works out with Rachel just being the only person there. Like there's no men on the team to fight for her. Like it's literally just her. Like how does that even, numbers wise work? But we will see. And so they picked their targets. Rachel was kind of upset, like, damn, like I don't want to do this again. But Casey decides to nominate herself finally. Okay, girl. And then also Carlin nominates himself once again. We got Devin also deciding to nominate himself finally, and Tori decides to go with her bestie Devin. And then we get to Era 2, and Corey's having a hard time deciding, and he's just like, listen, I'm just gonna pick Laurel. And he goes with Laurel. And then Ryan decides to nominate himself finally. So this week we got three people who decided to step up and, raise their hand in class and not be just there. So Ryan, Devin, and Casey, shout out to y'all for nominating yourselves finally and stepping up to be a target.
Yeah, because Casey was just there. And I'm like, when is it going to be her turn to be a target? Because thank God it wasn't Jenny again. Because Jenny been through enough on the outskirts. But good luck, Casey, for finally stepping up and actually being a target. Now I want to see how this goes next week. Because I don't know. This group is a very, like a strong group of targets. But then again, like I don't know how this will go. Like will like whose team will win? Like who will make like decent decisions next week? So we'll see how that goes. It's also really interesting to see how next week goes too with Rachel, since she is a team of one. I would think that they would make it, even though they're in teams, they'll make the daily individual to give it a little bit of a different kind of feel instead of them like actually competing in teams next week. They'll like look make it an individual challenge, but whoever of your team, if someone wins from your team, like the targets are still safe, something like that. I feel like that could still work, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But it will be interesting too, even so, like with Rachel being by herself, of her allies that she does have who will keep her safe because she is running on a good momentum. And even though she is by herself, she can still wade her way through. So I'm still rooting for our Era 1 representative.
Yeah, I definitely want Rachel to at least get farther than well, she got farther than most of her teammates. So let's see how as far as she can go, honestly.
Yep, and with that, that's the recap. But let's get into some of the tweets from this episode. And first off, I'm going to say it again, because I mentioned this earlier. Wasn't Jenny on the challenge before Casey? And she won before Casey.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Casey is not like Harlan and doesn't do her challenge history. I'm not sure, but girl, do your Googles.
And just because you're attached to that lady, don't make you a veteran in this game. Like, you are in Era 4 for a reason. You still do. I don't care that you won. You can't be calling folk that won before you, that debut before you, on your own era, a rookie. Because you still a rookie. So, Casey is a bit of type now, because I'm like, she got to be dragged next week onto a U-Haul truck if she don't get it together. Next tweet. How the F can Rachel win by herself? It's truly unfair at this point. Like I said, I don't know how she can win by herself, but I'm putting my eggs in the basket behind her to prevail against some of the people in this house. But she is one of the strongest women in the house. So she can still put up or shut up against some of them. So I'm interested to see how that goes.
Yeah, for sure. I think Rachel definitely top 5 women still left in the house. So if as long as she's able to hold her own against some of the top women, I think she'll be fine.
Yeah. Metaphorically, Derek was the hero this season, but he went out looking like the Joker. Because the last scene of him with like the powder on his face, he looked like the Joker.
Yeah, definitely clown behavior. But to Derek's credit, he did not go down fighting. At least he fought back.
Yeah. And the last tweet, Era 3 is just selfish and entitled as hell. Y'all know damn well there's crossover deals between y'all and Era 2, but y'all getting that Era 4 wins and don't want to save y'all. Please stop. Because that was very interesting to see. Because I'm like, y'all the main ones that have like deals going on in the house. Y'all are the most inflated team I've seen this whole season. But y'all get mad at Era 4.
It's definitely something going on between those two eras because earlier in the episode, Devin was basically saying like there was a quote unquote idea of a deals being made already between era 3 and era 4, and they're not. And so everyone's basically scrambling to try to figure out like where the deals actually lie. Is it with era 2 and era 3? Is it with between era 3 and era 4? And then we also have people in those two eras who are trying to be in relationships, are working with each other on other things. So it's kind of uh a lack of interest, I would say, in terms of how they're working together. So I don't know what the deal is per se with those two eras, and I'm not sure who's working with who. Like that's the confusion, and I don't think they know what's going on. So it's kind of like everyone's scrambling at this point to try to figure out who can we make a deal with to try to stay the longest. I mean, that's the name of the game, but I think everyone needs to be on their own um like on the same path. And honestly, it's an individual game at the end of the day, so this team shouldn't it may not even last long. So that's also another factor that they have to look into, is just like how long is this going to benefit me if we work together with era 2 or with era 4 or even with Rachel. Like how is this going to impact me in the long run, because this is an individual game at the end of the day.
Yeah, because they've been thinking about it on Era 3. Like I said, they're the most inflated team we have on this season because they have relationships with people in Era 4 and Era 2. Like, Jordan is arguably one of the most, like, decorated players of the game, and he's got people on Era 2 that he's still cool with. Um, Whereas Devin has beef with Bananas on Era 2. Tori doesn't have beef people in there too, but she's like friendly ish, but like she's a threat to them too. Whereas with Era 4, they got people, but then like their people on Era 4 don't got a mind of their own. So it's just like where do they have to, like you said, they have to reevaluate how the deals are going because they are at the head of the Vacation Alliance, and that's still a thing at this point. Seeing how they kind of reevaluate things, even like with Michelle, if like Devin really is going to try and work for her in the game as like a lot, that's also another element. But it's very interesting. And like you said, at the end of the day, it's an individual game. What's best for them in the long run will help them out. But I don't see a lot of this playing out as well in their favor. They'll get to a decent point, but they're gonna really cut off like the dead weight at some point, and it's just gonna be Devin and Tori big chilling without everyone else in their alliances of sorts.
Yep.
But yeah, that's all of the tweets from this episode. Next week will be fun again. Not Rachel. Laurel fell down in the challenge. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully she wasn't the first to go out, but if she was, I mean, too bad, because I really did not appreciate how she treated Darrell after reading those things that Darrell said in his interview post his departure. But thank you guys for listening. We will be back next week to discuss more of the challenge. If you would like to follow us on Twitter, you can at Dual Alliance Pod. You can follow Megan at Megan Hines, and you can follow myself at Ace_S5. And if you're listening to this podcast, you can watch this on YouTube at Dual Alliance Podcast. See you guys. Peace out.
Bye.